Good evening. The time is now 6 p.m., Wednesday, November 13th, 2024. Calling to order the meeting of the Warwick School Committee Executive Session. First, I would like to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Actually, before we get into the Pledge of Allegiance, Ms. Tedeschi, would you like to do a roll call?
Chair Galligan.
Present.
Chairwoman Hazelwood. Oh, Vice Chair, I'm sorry. Kirby Chapman. Hi. Did she say present? Yep. Ms. Backus. Present. Mr. Testa.
Okay. We'll now call to order with the Pledge of Allegiance. After the Pledge of Allegiance, I ask that we please remain standing for a brief moment of silence as we recognize a former school committee chairperson, school committee member, Janice Fisher, who passed away a couple weeks ago.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. At this time, we'll turn it over to our Director of HR, Ms. Ruggieri, for our recognitions, which includes Employee Spotlight for the month of October. Ms. Ruggieri.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the school committee. As I say every month, and I truly mean it, this is the highlight of my month. Quite often in my role, I only see things when they aren't going well, so to hear the positive things going out there from colleagues is very exciting for us to read. So without further ado, please join us in celebrating the following employees for the month of October. The Secretary of Oakland Beach Elementary School, Gina O'Connell. The Guidance Counselor at Windman Middle School, Brenda Sonnenschein. The Safety Assistant at Tollgate High School, Damon Herold. Principal of Wyman Elementary School, Ryan Raffinelli. Ryan is here this evening. Teacher Assistant at Hoxie Elementary, Angela Egan. Teacher at Windman, Justin Montoya. And our Maintenance Department, Scott Russell. And finally, our MLL Coordinator, Tracy Sutherland. Congratulations to everyone.
Congratulations to those recognized. And I would also like to recognize two individuals here tonight for their efforts at the October 23rd special school committee meeting on the school construction project. I'd like to thank Sean and Bruce, who handle all the tech and the promotion of the meetings and the video feed. So really want to just say thank you to them for stepping up that particular night and all other meetings. So thank you, guys. Without further ado, I'm looking for a vote to go in a closed session for discussion and/or action regarding those items of business exempt from open meetings under General Laws of Rhode Island, RIGL 42-46-5, A1, A2, A4, A8, and A9.
So moved.
Made by Ms. Backus, seconded by Mr. Testa. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. We're in executive. Time is now 7 p.m. on November 13th, calling to order the meeting of the Warwick School Committee. Be looking for a motion to return to open session. Made by Ms. Backus. Seconded by Ms. Hazelwood. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Be looking for a vote to seal the minutes of executive session. Motion made by Ms. Backus. Seconded by Ms. Hazelwood. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. There were no votes taken in executive session. We're now on to the public comment period of the agenda. Individual comments will be respectfully limited to 3 minutes per person, with public comment not to exceed 45 minutes. Though the content of comments will not be restricted, it is the hope of this committee that citizens, committee members, and the administration alike will be respectful of each other's right to speak, tolerant of different points of view, and mindful of everyone's time. This public comment period is for agenda items only. Agenda items only. A second public comment session is available later in the meeting for all of the topics or concerns. Members of the public are permitted to speak during both of the public comment periods. Speakers are asked to state their name for the record. Again, this is an opportunity for the public to comment and for us to listen. So with that, for those new to the meetings, just after each speaker speaks, just come on down and go to the microphone.
Good evening. My name is Darlene Netko. I'm a lifelong resident of Warwick, homeowner, taxpayer, voter. I graduated from Tollgate High School. I currently teach at Tollgate High School. I teach English. This is my 37th year, and I'm president of the Warwick Teachers Union. And I see our new high schools are on the agenda again, so I just want to remind everyone about the importance of having these new high schools built and built properly. We had a special school committee meeting at which the high schools were the topic of conversation, and there was some talk about budgeting and going over budget, but I recall a previous meeting where many of us expressed a concern about the amount of glass that was going to be in the interior of the buildings and the fact that we would prefer solid walls. And I believe someone involved in the building project mentioned that solid walls would be less expensive than the glass walls. So if we replace all of those interior glass walls with the solid walls, then perhaps we can affect some savings in that regard. And while we are talking about the buildings, we talked about the fields, the importance of the fields and the athletic space. We also want to keep in mind the importance of the learning space. Are there enough classrooms? And as I said, I'm an English teacher, and we have a lot of books. We have the anthologies, but we have numerous novels, plays, and so on that students read for a time, then return to the book room. And right now, the English department has one full room of books. We have taken over part of the library storage space, and we have a very large wall of books in the back of one of the larger classrooms. So we need book room storage planned for these buildings too. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other members of the public wishing to comment? Any other members of the public wishing to comment? Mr. Ricks? You're good. Any other members of the public wishing to comment? Seeing none, on a recommended action, routine matters, looking for a motion to approve the minutes of the public session on October 8th, 2024. Made by Ms. Backus.
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Hazelwood. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Looking for a motion for approval of minutes of executive session on October 8th, 2024. Made by Ms. Backus.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Testa. All those in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Seeing none, motion carries 5-0. Looking for a motion of approval of minutes of public session on October 23rd, 2024.
So moved.
Made by Ms. Backus.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Testa and Ms. Hazelwood. All those in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Looking for a motion of approval of transfers November 12th, 2024.
So moved.
Made by Ms. Backus.
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Hazelwood, Ms. Kirby Chapman, and Mr. Testa. All those in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion passes. Looking for a motion of approval of warrants November 12th, 2024.
So moved.
Made by Ms. Backus.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Testa. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion passes 5-0. On to announcements and personnel as presented. Ms. Ruggieri.
Good evening, Mr. Chair and members of the school committee. Before you tonight, I have some retirements and resignations that will require a vote. This is the time of year that WISE members typically retire, so that's what we have before you tonight. We say goodbye to Lynn Mallard, kindergarten teacher assistant at Oakland Beach Elementary School. Anna Dale, custodian at Oakland Beach Elementary School. Lynn leaves us with 26 years of service, and Anna leaves with 25 years of service. Amy Harnedy, kindergarten teacher assistant at Sherman with 25 years of service. Tina Marie Paglia, special ed teacher assistant at Pilgrim with 29 years of service. And Kathleen Cookson, teacher assistant at Park with 12 years of service. So that totals 117 years of service from those WISE members. We thank them for all they've done.
Looking for a motion to approve the retirements and resignations as presented by Ms. Ruggieri. Motion made by Ms. Backus.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Testa. All those in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries 5-0, and congratulations and thank you to everyone who has retired.
We do have 2 resignations from teacher assistants. We have Rebecca Marin at Lippett Elementary School and Jennifer Feifalt at Warwick Neck Elementary School.
Looking for a motion to approve the resignations as presented, made by Ms. Backus.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Testa. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
And as a courtesy announcement, we do have 2 new teachers to welcome to the district. First, we have Kristen Anderson, a library media specialist at Holloman and Norwood Elementary Schools, and Elizabeth Vecchio, a science teacher at Winman. So welcome to Warwick.
Congratulations to those that have been appointed. Ms. Ruggieri.
Thank you.
Thank you. This evening, we have no donations or correspondences for the district. We're now on to Part J, adoption of policies. Going to take these individually because there's only 3, and I believe one of them procedurally did not go through the proper channels. So first item up for second read, IGDB, student publications. Looking for a motion to adopt for discussion.
So moved.
Made by Mr. Testa.
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Backus. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries on IGDB in the second read, student publications, 5-0. Next one, we have policy ACA, final rule, Title IX policy and grievance procedure. Looking for a motion to adopt, made by Ms. Backus.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Testa. Any discussion? Ms. Kirby Chapman.
I'm putting in the motion to table this because it. Oh. Do I explain now? No.
There's been a motion by Ms. Kirby Chapman to table. I would second that. Any discussion on the motion?
Yes.
Mr. Testa.
Okay. What's the rationale?
Well, we were currently working with legal to align the new title policy with the current policies related to protecting transgender students, as well as the applicable Rhode Island regulations, and as well as there was actually changes made after the first reading that never went back through policy. So it should go through a second read through policy, please.
Thank you. Do you yield? Ms. Murray, do you have something you'd like to say?
Yeah, no, I was just wondering what those would be. Are you going to tell us afterwards what the changes that were made? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Testa, do you
So-
yield? You have the,
Yeah, just
still
so-
have the floor.
Yep, so just so I understand, so policy sub went through this, but changes were made in-
After the first read.
after the first read as it was presented
The
to us?
first read, and then we tabled it through Mr. Henias.
Right, and then there was another subcommittee meeting.
And then, yes, it was
Right.
never brought up again, because it was still, it was never brought to second read through policy.
Okay, so okay. I'm just, forgive me, I'm just trying to understand the sequence. So there was information, the reason the basis upon which it was tabled at this meeting, it went to the policy sub
It
again,
went
but
through
those
first read.
reasons weren't discussed at the next policy subcommittee meeting?
Correct. It went through first read, we agreed to it, and then the second
Okay.
read, it never went back for second read, and there
Okay.
were changes that were made for
Okay.
the second read. Minor, but they were done.
Gotcha, thank
Do you
you.
yield? Right. So, as I noted, there was the procedural matter there, and I support the chair of the policy subcommittee on that. And then there's really 2 issues here. The fact that we didn't follow the proper channels, and then secondly, we discussed the legal component here. We want to make sure that we're putting something out there. Not saying that this body is for or against the policy. It's just we want to make sure we're following the rules and following all of the other legal matters. So I'll turn it over to Attorney Henias, who I believe was working with Ms. Kirby Chapman.
Yeah, so no, Ms. Kirby Chapman did email me probably about 3 weeks ago now with some questions. And what we were trying to do is ensure that the current policy as drafted aligns with policies that you have that are not Title IX policies, but protect transgender students, and also the intricacies of the Rhode Island regulation. And in fairness to Ms. Kirby Chapman, I have not been able to get back to her yet, so that we just haven't had a chance to really have that discussion and kind of go through the documents and align them.
Thank you, Attorney Hennies. Are there any other questions on the or comments relative to the motion made by Ms. Kirby Chapman to table and resend a policy? Ms. Hazelwood?
I was actually surprised to see it on the agenda because I thought it was tabled at the last meeting. And it was tabled. There wasn't a second, it didn't go through a second.
Reading.
This is the second read. We did a first read.
But it was the first read
And then it goes back to
additions
policy.
that went to Andrew
Tabled.
didn't make it to
And then we got to bring it back.
And are we referring to the policy that you wanted to come up for review at the
No,
policy
Title IX.
meeting, the JBB?
No,
And
the
try,
Title IX.
okay, totally different. Okay, thank you.
Ms. Hazelwood, you still have the floor.
That's all.
You're all set?
I was surprised because I didn't make it to the last meeting, so I thought it was tabled. I didn't get to see the discussion. And was it tabled at the last meeting?
Yeah, we didn't discuss it.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other comments relative to the motion to table and send this back to the policy subcommittee? Seeing none, all those in favor on the motion to table and send this back to policy?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Policy ACA, final rule, Title IX, policy and grievance procedure, back to policy subcommittee. Next, we have policy DIC, financial reports and statements. Looking for a motion to
Move approval.
Made by Ms. Backus,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Testa. Any discussion?
Yes.
Ms. Backus.
I just think that that first paragraph is very good because it brings into policy the reality of what actually happens, so that we've never gotten it done in 90 days.
Thank you, Ms. Backus. Do you yield?
I yield.
You're good. Okay. Any other comments on this policy? Funny jokes? Nothing. Okay. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries 5-0. We're now on to the new business portion of our meeting. Before we go down there, just going to make a couple quick comments. So we're going to take one item out of order here. I apologize to my colleagues. We're going to bring ahead item 10 on the agenda. So I would call up Mr. Ricks at this time for the discussion action. Approval request, Pilgrim Boys Basketball Out-of-State Tournament. And then after that, we're going to go down to the floor for discussion presentation. It would be the fall 2024 data update, but we'll also stay down there as well for the Pilgrim Stage 3 Ride Design Development submission. Yes, Ms. Backus.
Will you also be taking item number 11, because that's also a request for out-of-state tournament for
That's a
wrestling?
great question. Is the co-chair for that one as well? So you've got the co-chair for, do you have the co-chair for also 10?
Yes, both are here.
So you have both of them here? Yeah, so we could take 10 and 11 at the same time as well. Okay, so at this time, I'd be looking for a motion to adopt
approval.
item number 11, discussion action. Discussion action number 10, approval request, Pilgrim Boys Basketball Out-of-State Tournament.
Move
Mr. Ricks.
approval.
Made by Ms. Backus.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Testa and Ms. Hazelwood, and Mr. Ricks for discussion.
Thank you, Chairman Galligan and the rest of the committee members.
Hello, Mr. Chair, members of committee. My name is Steve Brewster. I'm the volunteer assistant for the varsity basketball team at Pilgrim. I'm here in a position as a proxy for the head coach, Sean Hensler, who's out of town on business. And I just wanted to explain our request for permission to engage in an overnight basketball tournament. Last year, we took the team with the school committee's approval to New York City. We played a game on Friday night. spent the night, and then the next day went to the 9/11 memorial, and it was an incredible success. And we're trying to mirror the same kind of experience for the team this year. Let me just read our desired itinerary is as follows. On Friday, January 17th, the players and parents will drive the team to Burrowville to play a game Friday night at Burrowville. Parents after the game will then drive the team to our first game, to Springfield, Mass, where we will check into an already booked hotel. Parents will then drive the team to our first game on Saturday, January 18th at Springfield High School, the Springfield High School of Science and Technology, where we will play a team from Massachusetts in the morning, and then visit, as part of the event, the Basketball Hall of Fame later on Saturday. We will then have a team dinner Saturday evening and remain overnight in Springfield Saturday, and then play a team from either Massachusetts or Connecticut on Sunday around noon. Parents will then drive the team home to Warwick after the game. There will be no need for transportation, as parents will be doing all the driving. We will also have plenty of chaperones, as 3 coaches will be augmented by several of the parents when we take the trip to the Hall of Fame. Allowing us to stay overnight will save us several hours of driving to and from Springfield on Saturday and Sunday. It's also a unique opportunity for the kids to bond not only with each other, but with players from other states. There is no cost to Pilgrim or the school department associated with the trip. Safety will be a paramount, as players' parents will be involved the entire time. The players will engage in a unique opportunity to visit the Basketball Hall of Fame and meet with players from several other schools. And this is a huge tournament with over 125 teams in total. And thank you for your consideration, and if you have any questions, please feel free to ask me.
Thank you. Any questions or comments for Mr. Brewster? Ms. Backus?
That's awesome. Have a great time.
Thank you.
The Basketball Hall of Fame is really cool.
Yeah, it's a nice
So,
place. Yeah,
yeah.
good. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Backus. Any other questions or comments for Mr. Brewster? My vote on this is contingent upon how does the team look this year, and what do we think we're going to do on that?
I think we're going to be pretty good. We've
Okay.
got 4 or 5 kids that started as freshmen that are now seniors, so they've gone through the program for 4 years, and we're hoping that everybody stays healthy and the coaches do a good job and motivate them, and we win a lot of games.
Perfect. That's all I need then. Any other comments or questions for Mr. Brewster? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Good luck on the trip.
Thank you.
Next item, item 11, discussion action, approval request, Tollgate Wrestling Out-of-State Tournament.
Good evening. My name is Jerry Sabatelli, the head wrestling coach at Tollgate High School for the past 28 years. I'm here to seek permission to take my team once again out of state to the Marshfield Holiday Tournament in Massachusetts. It's a great experience that we've been attending since 2007. It's a 40-team, 2-day event over the Christmas break. My team that I'll be taking will consist of 12 to 14 athletes, 2 of which are my own sons. This year we would like to stay overnight so that we do not have to come back very late on day 1 just to return and leave very early on day 2. We have raised enough money for the team to stay overnight to reduce the travel time on the road. In addition, we have already 7 families already committed that will be staying there as well. Many parents that we travel all year long. This past summer we were in Virginia Beach and Pennsylvania, New Jersey. So it's a pretty close-knit group of returning athletes and wrestling families. So by staying overnight, it just, like I said, reduces the travel time, and it is a great opportunity and experience for our kids. Last year we finished in 7th out of 40, and I have 11 out of the 14 returning. So we're hoping to improve on that. So hopefully you guys accept my request. Thank you.
Move approval.
Motion made by Ms. Backus.
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Hazelwood. Any comments or questions for
great
Mr.
time.
Sabatelli? Ms. Backus?
Have a great time.
Thank you.
It's good to save on the travel.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from members of the committee? I have the same question for you. How are we looking this year? What are we thinking?
I think we're going to be pretty good. We're going to compete in Division II again. I have couple of returning state place finishers, along with a good returning lineup. So, yeah, follow us. You know.
Awesome.
Come
Best of
see
luck
us.
to your team this year.
All right, thank you.
All right. With that all said, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Anyone up here opposed to taking Mr. Ricks's last one there? It's number 12? Nope, seeing none. Looking for a motion to adopt discussion action.
Move
approval request, Stadium Systems, Inc., as presented by Mr. Ricks. It's football helmets and shoulder pads, Pilgrim and Tollgate. Just for the committee's knowledge, we've kind of already passed this twice at the beginning of last year, our budget season this year. Now this will be the third time. So from an efficiency standpoint, we should look at kind of changing this up a little bit. But any questions or comments from members of the committee? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Ricks. All right, now we're up for number 1, discussion presentation, Fall 2024 Data Update, Dr. Schultz, to be followed by the item number 8, Pilgrim Stage 3 Ride Design Development Submission by Left Field and PM.
Hello and good evening, everyone. I wanted to welcome you to the Fall 2024 Data Update. I'm going to try to be brief yet exciting in my analysis of the data for you this evening. We're going to go through how everyone did from grade 3 and up across the district. So first up, grades 3 to 8 and their RICAS scores. So our ELA scores did go down 3% from last year in grades 3 through 8. Different grade bands had different results overall, and typically our elementary schools are a little stronger than our middle schools, which is typical across the state and across the nation. And I just wanted to point out that the state also declined 2.5%, so we're right there. And you can see the top number was how we did 2 years ago, and then how we did in comparison to this year. So we're down 3% overall. Anything within the 0 to 3% range is considered to be statistically insignificant. However, we are taking this decline very seriously and have implemented a bunch of different protocols to help mitigate that loss and make sure it does not happen again next year. We do have some bright spots. Greenwood Elementary School, even though the state fell 2.5% on average, Greenwood went up by 7%. Holloman up by 4%, and Lippett up by a whopping 10%. Absolutely. I love the whoops in the background. Well deserved. Thank you to the fans back there. Let's now look at our math scores. And yes, our math scores are up. Yes, we do well with our math scores. Typically, we have a lot of hypotheses as to why, and the state only increased by 0.5%. So we are looking, we're looking pretty good in that area. We do have a large yellow band that we're trying to move into the green. Green and blue are where we want our students to be. Green is on grade level, and blue is typically above grade level. They're exceeding the expectations and standards on the test, and so we want to make sure that we're growing every year. And so we had a ton of bright spots. I'm not even going to go into Windman right now. I'm going to go and I'm going to add them in it for last. Cedar Hill is up 4% in math. Greenwood, again, Greenwood up 4%. Holloman up 1.5%. Lippett, again, they crushed it, up 10%. We're so proud of Lippett. They were stagnant for many years, and now they're finally seeing some massive increases. We had a change in leadership, and the staff is working really hard to make things happen over there. You can see the results. 10% and 10% is nothing to scoff at. Norwood, again, they've been on a steady incline with their math scores. They're up 3.5% this year. Oakland Beach up 3.5%, Robertson up 2%, and Scott up a whopping 11%. That is our 4-star school, and they're just staying strong. We're hoping for a 5-star for Scott this year. And Windman, I just have to call them out. The state actually commended them on their performance. It is difficult to move scores when the students get older. There's some different research and there's different reasons why, but Windman has totally gone against the grain, and they have jumped 8%. Last year, they also had a very large increase, and our 8th grade at Windman doubled their proficiency scores in 1 year. So can we give them a round of applause, because that is amazing news. Nice job. And the leadership team over at Windman, the content leads, are all working very hard to make sure that everyone's working to their full potential over this. Keep up the good work, everybody. We had more fluctuations in ELA, as you could see. We were steadily increasing over 3 years, and we fell a little bit this year. We're trying to figure out the root cause. And one of the things that happens, and I've talked about it before, is something called the implementation dip. And so we have the brand new curriculum. This is our 2nd full year of implementation that we're coming out of. And this year we now have very strongly recommended certain things with pacing that we make sure that everyone gets through all of the standards in the course of this year. So we are, definitely assuming and hoping that things are going to be on the rise again after this year. And so we're holding data meetings right now to plan action steps with principals. We certainly are commending people for their growth. We want to continue that growth. And then looking at the schools that fell a little bit this year, we want to make sure that we're doing all the right things and having very pointed data meetings with them and creating really solid action steps. The curriculum team, the elementary team, are going out to the elementary schools to make sure that we're having meetings, grade level meetings with teachers, principals. We're doing everything that we can to keep holding everyone accountable. And comprehension checks. Yes, thank you, Ms. Cousineau. All right, 9 schools. I just want to point out that 9 schools are above the state average for ELA and 8 schools are above the state average for mathematics. And that is mainly our elementary schools and then Windman Middle School. Science testing. So this is something that we're going to see now on our district and school report cards, where I said that Scott was a 4-star school. It's part of our accountability ratings. And so science is now going to be counted in, which is a great thing because our state scores increased by 0.8%, but our scores across the district increased by 2%. We're now above state average, so that is really going to help us out in Warwick. Some great things. We have some amazing things happening with the science curriculum in general. Our middle school, we have a brand new science curriculum that's being implemented, and we've been able to partner with GemsNet out of URI. They are the most fantastic professional learning organization out there, in my opinion, for science. We're so lucky to have them in our state, and they are guiding our teachers through everything. It's the same group that works with our elementary teachers, so now there's this beautiful continuum that's going all the way up from K to 8. In the future, we do have changes coming out at the high school level for some high-quality curriculum. Most likely, it is going to be Open Sci-Ed that we'll be using at the high school level, which is also being used at the middle school level. So again, continuum, which is what we want. All right, so now into the high schools. We have our PSAT scores, and you can see, if you look quickly, where we were from 1 year ELA in 2023 to 2024. And then for math, you could see that we are under the state average by a little bit at Tollgate for ELA, but Pilgrim did increase their ELA scores by 3.1%, is now above state average. And for math, we do fall behind the state, but I do want to just call out that the state fell overall by almost 3 percentage points. And so we kind of went in the same direction as they did there. All right, then if we look at our SAT scores for our students, we can see that Again, ELA was our stronger point, and we did fall a little at Pilgrim, but we increased by 5.5% at Tollgate, which is a wonderful thing to see, and they're both above the state average for ELA SAT scores, which is great. And then math, again, we did fall in math at Pilgrim, and we're looking at the reasons why right now, and just trying to mitigate that loss. Again, the state, as you can see, did also fall in mathematics, and Tollgate stayed strong. So we're trying to figure out why and then next steps. I also wanted to show you how we did in comparison with other urban ring districts across the state, and this is pretty compelling data. This is just, this slide is for RICAS for ELA, English Language Arts. You can see at the top, Warwick, and again, we want to see where our students are in green and blue, and it will tell you that we're at 28% right now. And then you can see in comparison, we're a little under Cranston, a little under East Providence, but we are about on par, a little above Johnston, a little under North Providence, and we are well above West Warwick. You can see something also in comparison for our RICAS mathematics scores, and this one I'm very proud of. You can see our scores have continued to rise every year, and you can see it when we're in comparison with our peers. And so East Providence is the only group that was able to beat us in this area, which is great news. And again, this is grades 3 through 8. So I'll let you kind of digest that for a second. All right, and moving on. How do we do on the SATs? You can see again, Warwick is our top line, and we did very well in comparison with our urban ring peers. We were able to outperform all of the urban ring districts. I also added Johnston in. It's not classified as urban ring, but I wanted to put that in because it does border Providence. So you can see that I think it's a good comparison point to add. And then for mathematics, you can see that it's not only our group that kind of struggles in this area. The only one that really outperformed all of the other urban ring areas is North Providence. So we're kind of in the middle of a pack here. All right, that's about it from me. I did put the link into the slide deck so you can check out the data yourself, but you can always just Google, even just Google RICAS results, and it will pop up for you. You can go into this data, you can dig into any school that you want to, any district. And if you have any questions, please always reach out to me personally. I'm happy to help. Thank you.
Test. Good evening. John Bates with Left Field Owners Project Managers. You folks are more accustomed to seeing my colleague Chris Spiegel, who couldn't join us for this meeting this evening. This is for the portion of the agenda for the approval of the design development package to RIDE for their formal review and approval. I'd just like to start this presentation by saying that we had a very good meeting with the Rhode Island School Building Authority last week to review the design progress for the Pilgrim High School project. The architects were commended for their work thus far. I will share one little bit of feedback from the SBA, and I'm quoting now. The presentation demonstrated a thoughtful approach to addressing both functional and aesthetic needs of the school, end quote. So the floor plans that you see here have not changed since the architects presented them to you in September. The size of the building, the layout of the building, the room configurations, they have not changed. The window locations, the window sizes throughout the building also have not changed. The athletic field designs, which you cannot see on these plans before you, but I can tell you that they have not been changed. That is because the design development phase of this project and any project is actually a progression into more of the details of the project. We're starting to talk about things like what manufacturers are we suggesting we use for carpet tiles and ceiling tiles. We know, again, where the windows are, we know how big they're going to be, but we need to detail how we're going to flash them to keep the rain out.
Those are the types of things that we're progressing, those details, during the design development phase, and hence why you're not seeing any changes on these floor plans since September. So pending approval by the committee, we would plan to submit the full design development package to RIDE, again, for their formal technical review. We would do this as early as next week, again, pending approval. You could flip to the next page of the PDF just so that the committee can see the second floor. But again, you'll see no changes since the schematic design. And that concludes my brief presentation.
So Chairman Galligan, on the design development, we seek the committee's approval to submit to RIDE the full submission. So we are happy to answer any questions that you have on that submission.
Thank you. Do you mind if we just take Dr. Schultz real quick and then come right back to you? You're the man. Anybody on agenda item 1, the fall 2024 data update? Ms. Backus.
I am so excited. I have been waiting for this time for a lot of years, and I'm very, very optimistic about achievement going forward. Even though we have, with the SATs and PSATs, a little bit of issues, I believe that'll get better. I am just over the moon with the progress. So thank you for all that you're doing, and thank you to everyone who's working so hard to bring the achievement of Warwick Public Schools up. Let's keep going.
Absolutely. It's top of mind for all of us as instructional leaders to make sure that we have the highest standards for our students, especially with the high schools coming, because we want to make sure that we have the best learning spaces. As Ms. Netco stated, we have to make sure that we consider those learning spaces and make sure that they are the best for our students, because that's what they deserve. They deserve the best teaching and learning, and that's what they're getting. You can see it at Lippet. You can see it at Windman. It's inspiring, so thank you for noting that.
I almost called Eric today.
You should.
I'm going to call him tomorrow. I was like, oh, shoot, it's too late. It's probably gone, but just remarkable achievements.
All set, Ms. Backus?
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Any other comments from members of the committee?
Mr. Chair?
Mr. Testa.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Schultz. I would share Ms. Backus's exuberance. I would also be a little bit more of a black cloud on some of the areas where we had schools that exceeded, which is great, and we had schools that didn't.
Yes.
So the focus has to be on both, right?
Absolutely.
But you mentioned implementation dip, which I understand, but with respect to that, do you typically see, once you experience the implementation dip, do you typically see when you come out of the dip, does it tend to go up a little at a steeper rate, or is there's just, you just can't conclude that?
They say it can take 3 to 5 years for everything to kind of level itself out. You can start to see things improve. The only thing that I can say that we know for a fact with our own experiences is the use of iReady for mathematics. So we've had it now for, I think, 8 years, and I'm sorry if I'm saying the wrong number, but something in that ballpark. It's working for mathematics. You can see every year, and is that the only reason our math scores are up? I don't know, but I mean, you could say it's the math interventionist. I think it's everything working in tandem and people really buying in and using it with fidelity. That's the problem. When we first brought on Wit and Wisdom, for example, at the elementary level, we had some people that might have been a little more resistant, and they've now jumped on the bandwagon, but it takes a couple years for everyone to be ready for change like that. We've heard some anecdotal stories that, you know, certain teachers weren't able to get through the full curriculum last year. And if a teacher's only able to get through, let's just say, half of the curriculum, the students aren't able to cover the standards that are needed. And that's what they're tested on at RICAS time. And so they might be able to carry themselves from prior knowledge from years before, but it's going to catch up to them. And so I sent a very, I want to say, pointed email to all of the teachers at the elementary level saying we must get to Module 4 at the end of this year. We have to get there. If we don't, the students aren't going to have the standards under their belt and they're not going to be prepared. So I think resistance sometimes is part of the implementation dip, and it's just getting used to it. It's getting used to the pacing, because some of our more seasoned teachers that are all in, they struggle with the pacing of it. You know, there are parts you might need to shorten in the lesson, but it takes sometimes longer than the time allotted, and so they're trying to figure all of that out, and it's only really, you know, it's only within the first couple of years. But yes, Ms. Kuzina wants to also speak.
Thank you. The only other thing that I considered and as part of the team is that for the last few years, we spent a lot of time with the letters training and with the Right to Read Act, and that's taken up an exorbitant amount of time out of our professional development days. And because we're spending time on that, which will eventually help because they'll understand the science of reading, that we haven't put as much professional development time, excuse me, with Wit and Wisdom, where they were coached like through the first implementation year. We've had to dial that back so we could finish the Right to Read Act right now. So I think once it's all kind of leveled off, we're finishing with K through 2 is finished, so we're doing grades 3, 4, and 5 right now. And I think once that's all ironed out, we'll be all in again for more professional development.
And Right to Read was a federal thing or a state thing?
Well, it was definitely, yeah. It's federal, but state kind of, they do their own mandated trainings, and it's definitely mandated. Everyone in the state had to go through it.
Right, so it's a state mandate that, well intended, but gets in the way of what the work we're trying to do. Because, and I'm glad you brought up iReady, because that was my next question. What's the relationship between the iReady and RICAS, right? So in math, that's good data, right? So what do we do for ELA?
So for ELA, we're using Wit and Wisdom.
And that's the new thing, right? So that there's a little bit of, okay.
But
I mean, everybody has to understand the importance of this. Everybody's going to understand the importance. We may not like it. I mean, everybody in a career may find new trainings and new things that they have to do that they just don't like. But, you know, we don't, to your point, if you've only gotten through half of it, the minute the student sits down to take that RICAS, they're at a disadvantage.
Right.
Right? Okay. And as far as SATP, SAT, I think it's a terrible measure for secondary. You know, but that is what it is. You know, I have nothing but full confidence that you folks are all honing in on what the root cause is, as you said, and then finding the ways to fix it. So the bright spots are very bright, I think.
Very bright.
And then I'm glad you put up the other urban ring districts, because it's very easy to compare us to East Greenwich and Barrington. We're different towns. Socioeconomically, we're completely different. So you can't expect those results yet.
Yes, and the one I wanted to point out was East Providence, because if you saw on the one of the first slides of just how strong they were in comparison to other ones, and you know, I wonder what impact those new high schools had on that, bringing students in and engagement and everything. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Testa. Ms. Kirby-Chapman.
Can you walk me through a couple of things?
Sure.
Because I'm so glad that you did put that up, because the one thing that I guess no one points out and that I kept going with is, as a state, we're still below 50% as a state as a whole, which is kind of like, you can't really point out Warwick without pointing that out as a whole. So why are we as a whole as a state? So I guess in my mind I was questioning, so our curriculum comes from RIDE, correct? Wit and Wisdom? I mean, not what the teachers work on at the high school level, but I mean, specifically to this, the 3 through 8.
Yes, so RIDE gives us a list of approved curricula that we can choose from.
Right.
And so they have it for science. They've just started the science. And then all the way up K to 12 for ELA and all the way up K to 12 for mathematics. And so we've had them in place now. The last portion of that was the high school into literature program that we purchased. And then the Wit and Wisdom. We've also have a new math program at the high school level as well, because the ones we started with, they weren't the best fit, and we wanted to make sure that everybody was all in. So the teachers had more voice in choosing those newer programs at the high school level. But elementary, we had 9 to choose from. We looked at 8 of them, and we had 10% of our teaching population at the elementary level test it to make sure that it was the right fit for us.
Right.
And 99% of respondents voted for Wit and Wisdom versus the other one that they picked. But yes, you're right. RIDE does tell us what we can choose from.
I mean, and I know Cranston was similar, but Cranston doesn't even use Wit and Wisdom, right? I just know that they use another program.
No, there's only a few districts that actually use Wit and Wisdom, and it's all public data that you can pull from RIDE. It's called the Curriculum Verification Report.
How long ago?
In case anyone wants to check that out.
Sorry, how long ago was that implemented? When they like changed it and said you have to choose one of these programs?
So that's part of the.
COVID?
It's called HQIM, High Quality Instructional Materials.
Right.
And they started doing that back when we had to choose iReady. So that was 8 years ago. I want to say they must have started this process around that time. That's before my time.
About 8 years ago.
And they had, we started by implementing the mathematics in Warwick. And then we had a deadline where we had to implement math and ELA, but because we have such a large population, we had to do it in smaller chunks because of the cost. And so we kind of did it in pieces to make sure that the puzzle all fit together. But it's been years now, yes.
Off the top of your head, from when you started, do you think the scores have stayed about the same?
No, since I've started in this position
Right.
4 years ago, our scores have gone up every year
So-
for mathematics, and this is the first year that they've gone down slightly for ELA.
And you think it's gone up because of the programs that have been issued? You think it's been more of a positive?
I think that there are a lot of different reasons. I think that iReady definitely has an impact. iReady has this really, I personally really enjoy the tool, the MyPath tool. We had a brilliant team member, Marissa Hudson, was our math coordinator last year. She did a statistical analysis for us, SPSS, for those of you that know stats. Okay, sorry, I geeked out a little bit there. And so she was able to do a correlation between lessons passed in MyPath and an increase in RICAS scores, and it was a strong correlation. So we've now asked everyone in grades K to 8 to use MyPath to help boost. It's kind of like, it's personalized learning. So the teacher can be pulling small groups, but the students can be working at their exact level to push them forward, which I think really helps if it's implemented with fidelity and yes. So go ahead.
And the other thing is RIDE has supported the iReady workshops, so they've actually paid for some of the iReady workshops where our teachers have had a chance and our principals have had a chance to go to other districts and see it being implemented. And then folks come here. I know at Robertson last year, at Norwood, and a bunch of our other schools, we were the host city and people came to us. So we've done that shared PD kind of thing, which I think has been very beneficial. And we're looking forward to doing that with Wit and Wisdom. As we get the letters and the right to read training under our belt, we'll be able to have more opportunity to do that.
Okay. I mean, thank you for answering my questions, because I was just, again, because as a state, we're not really performing at a level that we should. And I don't think it's Warwick particularly. I think as a state.
As a state, yes. When you see, and then you compare us to urban ring districts, we're either above or right in the middle of the pack. And so we're doing well compared to our peers, but we want to go to the next level. And so we're asking, you know, we've done, like I said before, very pointed, you know, just helping in different ways depending on the needs of each school, because each school is so different in Warwick. You know, we have 13 elementary schools, and we have 13 instructional leaders that are at the helm that have very different styles. And so trying to, you know, help each group navigate all of this data and these new programs, it's a big lift for people. And, you know, I think we have everything in the right place now. And we're ready to move that ELA needle again, and we'll be right back on track. So
you still think it's a big lift, even though it's hard, as you said? You still think
it's hard and it's a big lift. Okay. You know, you have to think that every single teacher in this district has had to learn brand new
stuff,
curricular resources over the past 8 years. Everything is brand new. And now they're pushing out social studies that they want us to have different new programs. So everything is new. And unfortunately for our elementary teachers, or fortunately, depending on the way you look at it, they teach every subject. So they have to learn math, ELA, science, social studies, where it's, you know, departmentalized at the middle and high school level. So it's a new program for them as well, but at the elementary level, it's a lot to ask of our teachers.
The other thing to consider is, since we've come out of COVID, our kids, K through 12, are not exactly who we used to be teaching. There are many more social emotional needs with our students across the board. So when this summer we had some teachers come in and they helped to redesign what we call at the elementary level the time allotment sheets. We put more time and energy and effort and lessons into social emotional learning, and we kind of tweaked a little bit of put your social studies in with wit and wisdom, put your this in with that, and so on and so forth. So trying to help them sort of not teach in silos anymore, but social emotional learning has taken a very large chunk of our time, energy, and effort as we try to get our students ready to learn. Some of our students come to school and they're not learners yet, so giving them the tools in their toolboxes helps them to become learners, because if their body might be here, but if they're not ready, then no matter what curriculum we're using, they're not going to get it.
Thank you. I mean, that helps me, so I'm sure it must help other parents out there as well. So thank you for taking all the time. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Ms. Kirby-Chapman. Anyone else? I'll just echo my colleagues' comments. Great job to all the schools that showed improvement. Rooting for those that we need to kind of get moving a little bit, and very excited that that you and other members of the administration are starting to put together an action plan for our secondary schools to really get those schools moving. So looking forward to hearing what those action items are, and then yeah, more on the SPSSs as well. That'd be great. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Gothberg, I lied to you, sir. I was advised that we should probably go to action item 2 now and work our way back down, because then it would just be cleaner that way. We'll have you and left field all together at once. So with that said, agenda item 2, discussion update, FY 2025 monthly financial report and year-end review. Mr. Bowl.
Good evening, Mr. Chair. Good evening, school committee. So I've provided everybody with the November fiscal report. As always, if you have any questions, please feel free to forward them to me. One of the things I wanted to address tonight, we've talked at previous school committee meetings about being over budget in terms of salaries in prior years and showing that trend. So I just wanted to, I'll read a quick statement about what the administration is doing in order to address this, and then I'm happy to answer any questions afterward. The administration has taken the action of halting discretionary spending through the end of December while we consider a revised district budget for the remainder of the school year. The fiscal year 24 school committee budget allocated $95.4 million for salaries. Through the process of adding programmatic headcount and the expiration of COVID-era federal funds, we now know that this amount was far less than the district needed to budget for salaries. While a significant adjustment was made to increase the budget for salaries in the current fiscal year, we anticipate being over budget again in fiscal year 25. It's important to differentiate between discretionary and non-discretionary spending. Discretionary spending includes items like custodial supplies, equipment, classroom supplies, maintenance supplies, etc. Non-discretionary spending, which again the district will not be cutting, includes expenses such as transportation, out-of-district tuitions, athletic programs, etc. So again, the district will continue to pay for these non-discretionary items while looking to save funds elsewhere in the district. In the next several weeks, the administration will be working to achieve the following. Develop a clear projection of exactly how much the district will spend in fiscal year 25 on salaries and benefits. We're going to work with budget managers to develop a spending plan for the second half of the year that makes sense from both an operational and fiscal perspective, and present a district recommended revised budget for fiscal year 25 for school committee's consideration and approval that reflects the increased salary and benefit costs as well as the cuts to discretionary line items. That's all I have.
Great, thank you, Mr. Bull. Any comments or questions from members of the committee? Mr. Testa.
Thank you, Mr. Bull. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, Mr. Bull, and Mr. Hannes can correct me if I'm wrong, with your statement. So once we reach that point, right? If and when it's determined that we will be in deficit, we have to notify the Auditor General, I think, or we have to come up with a plan.
We have.
Okay. So I mean, all I can say is, you know, it's disappointing to me, but we'll cross each bridge as we get to it, and then we'll see, you know, just how big or bad this monster is. So
I would just add too that right now we're being prudent. That's the best way I would put it. We're doing what we can in order to try to minimize this or offset it to the extent that we can, but also recognizing that there's programmatic needs within the district. We can't say no to everything. We can't cut everything. We still have to run a school district that meets student needs. So we're going to be diligent and thorough, but also recognizing the needs of students as well.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Testa. Any other comments from members of the committee? Yeah, so first, I want to thank the administration and Mr. Bull for, again, I believe I made the same comment last month, that we're getting ahead of this. We're identifying a potential issue here with regards to our financials. And I want to thank in advance all of the budget owners for the exercise that you guys are going to have to go through here over the next several weeks and maybe months. The Finance Subcommittee, we got a presentation last week, so some of the items which Mr. Bull has presented here to you tonight you know, stem from that committee, and I want to thank Dr. Taylor and Mr. McCaffrey and Mr. Bull, who were present at that last meeting, and so the recommendation to freeze spending by Mr. Bull was through the remainder of this calendar year was passed unanimously by the subcommittee there. So you know, certainly we're going to have some tough decisions before us, talking to my colleagues, and you know, we're going to have to be very diligent when improving certain spend here as we move along, and making sure that we provide that oversight that we're supposed to provide. So looking forward to seeing the corrective actions that are presented to us here shortly, and you know, maybe all of our blood pressure can come down a little bit before the holiday season, when it gets pulled back up again and you got to go shopping for your wife. So, any other comments or questions from members of the committee?
I think this is
Mr.
called,
Testa.
this is when the fun starts.
Yeah. Checking. All right, so seeing none, thank you, Mr. Bull.
Yep.
We're on to item 3, discussion update, grant procedural guide. Ms. Vincent.
Hi, good evening. My name is Carlisle Vincent, and I'm the Assistant Controller for the district, specifically managing grant and school bond finance. I previously served as the project director for a federal grant at the Rhode Island Department of Education, and I look forward to continuing grant-related work here in Warwick. Very happy to be here. I'm here to speak briefly tonight about a new school-based grant procedure. I think most of you all have reviewed the document, but if you haven't, it's linked in the school committee folder. The document outlines the process that schools should follow before submitting a new grant moving forward. This new process has schools filling out a Google form prior to applying for grants that will be sent to the Warwick grants team. The form is intuitive, simple to fill out, and provides our team with essential information that will better inform how we can best support schools. The rationale for creating this process for our grants is for several reasons. The predominant reason being that we want to support schools throughout the life of a grant, from start to finish. Sometimes we don't know about a grant until a purchase comes through, and then we're working backwards, playing catch up to ensure a school leader or educator has all that they need. And we want to make sure that schools feel supported, whether that be from a fiscal or budgetary side or a programmatic side. Not always, but in the past, what has happened is that schools apply for grants, which is fantastic. Warwick receives a check, and that check might sit in our safe for longer than it needs to, potentially even a few months, because we're not sure what school it goes to. We just want to make sure that when we receive grants, we can support those schools and ensure that they're using those funds and getting those funds quickly. We receive grants at such a high volume in Warwick, and we want to make sure that this is a streamlined process. We look forward to supporting principals and educators in Warwick and hope that we continue to put forth competitive grants and that we continue to win them. If you have any questions about the document or the procedure, you can please reach out to me. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Vincent. Any questions or comments from members of the committee? Mr. Testa.
Just have a comment. Thank you, welcome.
Thank you.
I don't think we formally met. I have no problems with essentially codifying how we're going to do grants. And I would hope that, all this codification leads to us just pursuing more grants and being able to support schools even further. I know it will help you. You'd like that. So thank you very much.
Yes, thank you. Have a nice night.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments, members of the committee? Nope. Welcome to the district, and thank you for formalizing this process for us. Item number 4, discussion update, superintendent update. Superintendent Danbrook.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the school committee. First of all, I want to talk about the website for the new high schools, and I'm very happy to let everyone know that Left Field has set up a website for the new high school projects. You can find the website by going to the Warwick Public Schools website, and there'll be a button with a link on it right on the home page. The purpose of the website is to give the community information on the project, as well as frequent updates, as well as the ability to view and ask questions about the high school projects. There will also be information about upcoming meetings on the high school project. And I strongly encourage you to visit the site on a regular basis for more up-to-date information. We're really excited about the site and how easy it is to access it and to keep you informed, because this project, as you know, is changing daily. So the other thing is attendance matters. As you might remember, last month I reported on attendance at every meeting. Again, Rhode Island Department of Ed describes chronic attendance or absenteeism as a percentage of students who miss 10% or more of school days during the year. So that equates to 18 school days. Research shows that chronic absenteeism is associated with a number of negative consequences for students, including lower achievement, disengagement from school, course failure, and an increase in dropping out of school. Attendance each day is even more critical to keep students on track, especially after the pandemic. I am very proud to announce that the attendance of Warwick students, has continued to improve. In fact, every school except for one in the district has improved attendance from last year in a tremendous rate, so I'm very proud of that. There is a district attendance committee chaired by Director Cousineau that meets several times a year to review Warwick's attendance rates and to brainstorm ideas to continue to curb chronic absenteeism. We'll be utilizing resources offered by the Rhode Island Department of Education to support our work moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent Danbrook. Any questions or comments for the superintendent? I just have one. I guess we got to go hornet hunting, huh? Got to go find one of those hornets. But we are on to item 5, discussion update, capital and construction project status update. Mr. Gothberg.
Good evening, Chairman Galligan, committee members.
Quick update, Greenwood punch list items are complete on the HVAC project. The HV system balancing has been completing, and we're just waiting for the testing and balancing report from Delta from their balancing company. Book shelving should be installed before the end of the year. It should be in next week, and we're just trying to coordinate install. Oakland Beach, the HVAC project balancing is completed. Again, we're waiting on the testing and balancing report. All known punch list items have been completed. The window installation is completed as far as they can go. The rest is dependent on the facade work being completed and the rest of the staging being pulled down of the way so that they can work on those windows. Projected restart at this point is 12/6, that Monday. That's kind of the date we're looking at right now. The facade project at Oakland Beach, work has been on hold until we had the resolution for the backup brick repair solution was in hand and approved. That has been done. Special order fasteners in the brick tie system have been manufactured and shipped. Those are expected either tomorrow or the next day. Work is expected to resume before this week's end, and we will have a scheduled completion once those items arrive. And again, we're looking at 12/6 at that to be completed and everything pulled down. That, of course, is weather dependent. Warwick Neck is essentially complete. Punch list is being assembled now. The final elevator inspections, fire alarm and elevator, to be conducted next week. And those are the final steps, and that should be ready to go. There is some minor exterior cleanup to do next week, which should be completed by the end of the week. John Green, the front entrance, if you've seen it, has been installed. Looks very, very nice, very solid. The final fire alarm test on those added devices that the committee approved a month or two ago is scheduled for next week. Punch list, when that is done, punch list walkthrough will happen. The sewer line pricing is in, the repair is in, and will be presented to the for formal approval to the committee in the next school committee meeting. Kilns, everybody's favorite subject. Kilns should be ready for use end of next week. That is dependent on final inspections. There is one item left here at Vets. There's a temporary door in place waiting for the permanent door to arrive and be installed, but that will not affect use of those. So keep our fingers crossed. Inspections done this excuse me, beginning of next week, and we hope that I can report to Dr. Schultz that we can go ahead and start using those kiln rooms. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Gothberg. Any comments or questions from members of the committee? Seeing none, I'm excited that the kilns are going to be commissioned at the middle school level, and then in 3 years, when those new high schools are built, we bring it back there as well, and moving the district into compliance and addressing fire safety and life safety concerns. So thank you very much for all your work on that. And also with the ARC grant that we just received recently, $283,000, I believe, about the 287. It's great that we can possibly allocate those funds towards the kilns. So thank you.
Thank you.
Next item, discussion update. Item 6, high school project update, left field.
Good evening again. John Bates with Left Field. I'd like to start by letting the committee know that a large part of the design development phase of the project is devoted to sitting down with faculty and staff to review the plans for their new spaces in their new buildings, making sure that their needs for educational delivery are going to be met. In October, we had a series of meetings that spanned the better part of 2 weeks, where we sat down in both of the high schools with the teachers, and we talked to them about their new spaces. We got their feedback on not only the layout of their spaces, but the furniture and equipment that they're going to need to be productive in their teaching endeavors. They were very good and very productive meetings. I just wanted to let the committee know that. I'll transition quickly to soils assessment. Another favorite topic of many people. This is for both sites. Our environmental engineer has completed their public records research portion of their soils condition assessment. They have not found evidence of anything concerning in terms of contamination of soils at either site. However, they are recommending that we do some limited soil testing and sampling to be done just to confirm that there's nothing alarming or of any real concern. So we will have a proposal for testing locations by the next month's meeting. And a quick update on the project budget. So we're currently at about 50% through the design process. Right now we have the Pilgrim project undergoing a new cost estimate based on their design development progress set, and we're going to be doing the same thing for the Tollgate High School starting in December. That process is going to take us into January. So we will have our next round of progress estimates based on both design development sets done by January, and each progress set, the drawings become, with each progress set, the drawings become more detailed, more refined, so as do the cost estimates. And that concludes my monthly update.
Any comments or questions from members of the committee for Mr. Bates? Mr.
I have one, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Bates. I appreciate that. And I'm going to bring up something that I emailed you about the other day. There were some documents that were requested from the administration, which were provided through a public records request. And of course, they made their way to social media. And one of them was, there's a line item in your monthly report. It's called Material and Testing Inspections. Originally, it was a $700,000 line item, and it was reduced to $600,000. And the social media judge and jury pool out there decided that it was a cut. And they tried to explain how, essentially you don't know what you're doing, no one knows what they're doing, et cetera, et cetera. So I did reach out to you, and I'll just read for the record what your response was. So you said the materials in inspection line was adjusted several months ago and wasn't a value engineering item, but it was based on real contract values you were seeing on other projects. So it wasn't reduced because we were going to look to save $100,000. It was reduced because that was the reality of the marketplace.
Correct, yes,
right?
yeah, yes.
Right, and then there was another reference to the commissioning line being cut. And that wasn't true because the commission, you originally set a budgeted amount for commissioning, but when it went out to bid, it came in
substantially
lower.
lower.
So therefore it's lower. It's not necessarily a cut. That's a very interesting way to describe some bookkeeping in my view, but I just wanted to let you know that some of those questions could have been easily answered with a phone call to Mr. Gothberg or to you guys. But again, social media being the beast that it is, again, I say judge and jury. So I just wanted to thank you for that clarification. So, and I'm sure we'll be seeing more of that as the project progresses. So we appreciate your responses. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions from members of the committee? Seeing none. We're on to item 7, discussion action, high school project labor agreement negotiation, building committee recommendation, left field, and Mr. Gothberg. Looking for a motion to adopt.
So moved.
Made by Ms. Backus.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Testa. Mr. Gothberg.
Okay, at the Building Committee on November 7th, by a vote of 5-1, the Building Committee recommended the start of project labor agreement negotiations for a PL agreement with the unions. That's for the high school project. So we bring this recommendation to the school committee for your consideration and potential approval to move ahead with negotiations only.
Thank you. Any discussion from members of the committee?
They're just working out the contract.
This is just for them to begin the process of negotiation.
For
It does not
PLA.
lock us into a PLA at that time.
We're trying to get the PLA in our best interest. That's what we're trying to do.
Thank you.
Ms. Hazelwood, any other comments from members of the committee? Seeing none. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Seeing none, motion passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Next item, discussion action, Pilgrim Stage 3, ride design development submission, left field.
Quickly, I'll read the memo. At the Building Committee on November 7th, by a vote of 6-0, the Building Committee voted to approve the Pilgrim Stage 3 ride design development submission. You saw the brief PDF plans. We seek your approval to move forward with the design development submission, and Left Field is here to answer any questions.
Looking for a motion to adopt item number 8, discussion action,
So
Pilgrim
moved.
Stage 3, made by Ms. Backus.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Testa. Any discussion? See, Mr. Testa?
No, I don't, just a comment. Mr. Bates, you indicated that the designs that were up on the screen were the same designs from September?
That's right.
Right, so it still contains all the fields and everything that we had shown the public before. Okay.
That's right.
Thank you.
I just, my only comment, I plan on voting in favor of this tonight. My only comment, just to remain consistent, is that, you know, I stand firm on the items that I'm looking to be added back into the project, specifically a larger gymnasium to account for the loss of the one gym. So getting back to at least just the original square footage that of physical education space that these schools had, that's one of them. But just, I don't want anybody to be upset or surprised when we get to that last one, the CD phase, and I vote no because we're still short certain things. So that's my only comment. Just want to remain consistent here.
Yes,
Ms. Hazelwood.
I'd like to see a book room for the English department at Tollgate. That's a necessary need. That they have to have a place to store their, you know, the books, the curriculum, whatever, beyond what's online. There has to be, children need to have books in their hand. And I'm in favor of that.
And that's for
as
both
well.
high schools.
Yes. So that's probably something that we can change internally, but it has to be on the design that's going to happen.
Just that was part of the discussions that we had with the staff over the last couple of weeks. The need for storage for the things that they have now and for the things they're going to have in the future. So the architects were taking notes during those meetings, and they visited the spaces to see what they have currently and to make sure that we're not setting them up in a situation in the future where they're not going to have what they need. So your point is noted.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Ms. Backus.
I want to once again reiterate that I'm very concerned about the number of classrooms, and I understand that there are other rooms, breakout rooms, et cetera, but those rooms are never to be designed to be classrooms. So I know it's going to be a major issue with our faculty, and I hope it works out.
I could add that we also had a pretty detailed meeting with principals and the people in charge of the scheduling, and we went and reviewed the plan, and we came away from that meeting, I think, a lot less concerned about the number of classrooms than we went into the meeting. So I think a combination of the classrooms that we have currently, in addition to the small breakout rooms and how they're being used, in addition to a slightly higher utilization rate of all the spaces, again, we left the meeting feeling a lot more comfortable about the number of classrooms available. And the principals did too. Yeah, when I say we,
I hope the teachers are,
of course, yes.
because they're the ones that are going to use them.
Yeah, absolutely.
And our students, of course.
All set, Ms. Backus?
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions from members of the committee? All those in favor of approving discussion action Pilgrim Stage 3 ride design development submission?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Thank you, Mr. Bates. Now we're up to item 9, discussion action bid award number 25-006 and 25-007, building envelope projects. Mr. Goldberg.
As part of the $56 million bond, there are several building envelope projects. We put out four schools on 2 separate bids. As the bids came back, if we looked at all the low bids, We were 3.523 over budget for those 4 schools in total. I brought this to the building committee and explained how difficult it would be to move forward with this without taking money away from other schools. So my office brought 3 options. One would be to take all the money from the remaining money from the $56 million bond and move it to the high schools. That was rejected. The second one was to do as we did with the HVAC projects and move it to the schools in the worst condition, which would be very hard to determine since most of the windows were done at the same time and they are in the same condition, and once again we wouldn't be touching all the remaining elementary schools. The third option that we brought forward was to reduce scope and concentrate on security of the buildings and touch all of the schools and redesign and go out to bid and just do doors and main entrances and deal with access where it's been requested as far as door swipes that way. So the building committee did at that point approve by a vote of 8-0 to go in that direction. We seek your approval to reduce the scope for the remaining building envelope projects and concentrate on doors and building access and secure the buildings as best we can. So we seek your approval to go in that direction. We're happy to answer any questions.
Looking for a motion to adopt discussion action bid award 25-006 and 25-007 building envelope projects made by Ms. Backus.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Testa. Any discussion?
Yeah.
Ms. Kirby-Chapman.
So if I understood this right, so some of these elementary schools are not getting windows?
I'm sorry?
So they're not getting new windows?
Well, no, they're not going to get, we could take that money and concentrate on those schools, or at this point in time, we thought it best to touch remaining schools and just do doors and windows right now, see what's left. I mean, just do doors and not touch the windows at this point. If we've got windows that don't operate, then we can repair those windows. Here in the cafeteria, you have a window wall that's split, so we would hit that one, but concentrate on doors and security. If we go back to when these budgets were done in early fall 2019, before escalation, before COVID, before any of this. Budgets are blown. The building committee, in its wisdom, thought it would be best to touch as much as we could at each school, but no, at this point in time, we would not be doing remaining windows. We'd concentrate on doors.
This doesn't feel very equitable.
Well, it's.
But I mean, as far as like all the elementary schools across the board.
But if we do these 4, then we don't touch other schools. So if we can touch all the remaining schools, then that's what we should do. That's what the building committee decided. Budgets are blown.
Do you yield, Ms. Kirby-Chapman? Yeah. Okay. Mr. Testa?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. But I think what needs to be made clear here is essentially that there's not enough money to do building envelopes in the remaining schools, complete building envelopes, right?
Correct.
So the choice is those 4 schools that we picked, all of which, by the way, require hurricane windows, which is a whole different thing of what the code says. So we could do those 4, and then there's nothing left for any other school. So, right?
Well, we might be able to hit a couple other schools, but we would not be able to touch all the schools.
Right, and you know, the point that was made at the building committee meeting was, look, when the $56 million bond was put out to the voters, a promise was made that every school would be touched.
Correct.
Right? So, you know, the HVAC system was a problem, which we had to prioritize. And I think we're doing the same thing here. So, you know, doors are a security issue, as are windows, but I think doors are if I had to prioritize, I'd prioritize doors over windows, right, for security. So I think it's prudent to do that, and then hopefully there's something left over, and we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But
there should be several million left, but it's not enough to do the windows. So it's, you know, we will bring options at that point, once we know how much is left, to the building committee, make some recommendations, have a discussion, and bring that decision back to the school committee. because once again, we're out of what was originally promised to the district and to the schools and to the community, and figure out where to go with the remaining monies.
And the other schools that we've done didn't come in this far
No,
over budget.
this was shocking.
This was new.
This
right?
was shocking, yeah.
Right, and that's why we were proceeding as to
Right.
doing a whole school at a time.
Right.
Because it made the most sense.
Right.
So, okay, thank you, Mr. Goldberg.
Thank you. Any other comments from members of the committee? Ms. Backus.
Again, we hit the economy, and what's happened in the past 6 years, 5 or 6 years, to the economy is insane, but we have to deal with it. So we have to cut back because they're not going to sweeten the pot for us and give us more money at this point to do what we originally intended to do. Unfortunate, but it's the reality of the situation and the way that the economy is going these days and the way it's doubling and quadrupling faster than ever.
And with the tariffs that have
just
been
awful.
projected, I don't see things getting better as we move forward. I don't see prices coming down.
Good? Okay. Any other comments or questions from members of the committee? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 13, discussion action, bidding and procurement investigation update review. I would be looking for a motion to uphold the superintendent's recommendation and to approve the notice of final action taken.
I have to leave. I'm getting off the stage while you guys vote on this.
Oh, no, you're good.
Do I have to leave? No?
No.
Okay.
So moved.
Made by Ms. Backus.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Testa. Any discussion? For the public's record, Ms. Hazelwood has filed a recusal form on this vote, so it will be a 4-person vote. Any other comments from members of the committee? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes 4-0. I'd be looking for a motion to adopt the resolution to social worker grievance. This is item number 14, discussion action.
Move approval on social
Motion made
work.
by Ms. Backus.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Testa. All those in favor?
Wait, discussion
No discussion. Discussed in exec.
for the social worker?
Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to say it's absolutely necessary, and we need more.
Okay. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Okay. Item number 15, discussion action, contract award, Barton Gilman, number 20730. Looking for a motion to adopt.
So moved.
Made by Mr. Testa. I'll second it. All those, any discussion?
Can I just retract the comments that I just made because I just had a brain fog? I'm sorry.
Ms. Tedeschi, strike her comments for the record, please. Thank you.
We have another social work issue, which is what was on my mind.
Any comments regarding item number 15, contract award, Barton Gilman? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Item number 16, discussion action, contract award, WB Mason, number 20642. Looking for a motion to move approval, made by Ms. Backus.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Testa. Any discussion?
They need paper. Give
That's
them
it.
paper.
Any other comments or questions from members of the committee? As presented by Mr. McCaffrey. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Item number 17, discussion action, contract award, Walleye Computer, number 20721, as presented by Mr. McCaffrey. Looking for a motion to move approval.
Move approval.
Made by Ms. Backus.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Testa and Ms. Kirby Chapman. Is that you?
Oh, it was
Ms. Hazelwood?
Ms. Hazelwood.
Ms. Hazelwood. Any discussion?
I have a question for Dr.
I got
Taylor.
one too.
Okay, thank you. So, Dr. Taylor, on this, I guess it's a broader question for, I guess, Mr. Bowl, I guess. So, on some of these, a lot of the proposals that are coming to us are all justified as being as part of the MPA. I think we should not just automatically fall back on the MPA. I think we should look to bid.
Agreed.
Because the MPA may not be the best deal out there. Now, there were maybe some instances where it doesn't make sense, and I think the latitude lies with the administration to make that determination. But I think in MPA, it shouldn't be a default, and it's okay.
Agreed.
Okay.
I think the use of an MPA obviously sort of clears us from any sort of liability, but at the same time, it doesn't necessarily guarantee you the best pricing. So I would agree.
Yeah, because I wouldn't have, I mean, I understand the intent of the MPA. I don't have a heck of a lot of faith in the state that they're very, that they're putting a lot of time and effort into the MPA. So I just have a feeling that this could be there, and Wally's an MPA vendor, which is fine. But every year, just keep rolling them onto the MPA. So
Yep.
I'm not saying that, you know, in this particular instance, Dr. Taylor would be the one to say, you know what, you could go out to bid and you could end up awarding it to Wally anyway, because
Right.
work history, quality of product, et cetera, et cetera. So, okay, thank you.
I think, Dr. Taylor, do you have a comment?
Yep, I would just like to just add a little bit of context to this too, because it is a good question, and I do think that certainly when possible, go out to bid through the process is always preferred. Germane to this specific item, Wally manages our network. They're our network management solution, and this is virtual servers to our virtual program for the CAD, so they manage that anyway. So they and the managed services, the network services, is bid out through the E-rate process, which is a federal government bid process. So it would make sense for this one to connect it to the people that need to manage it anyway.
Do you yield, Mr. Tessa? Any other comments on this? I have one question. Is this the Wally BMIC, or is this the Wally MIS?
Can you say that again?
In the, I cross-referenced all the expenses to the budget. Is this the Wally BMIC that was budgeted at $40,000, or is this the Wally MIS budgeted at $100,000?
So that would be neither of those. This would be under the secondary budget in software programs.
Okay. Great. Any other comments from members of the committee?
I was just going to add one more comment from what I had said earlier. Just pragmatically, sometimes it is nice to rely on the MPA. So if you have an expense that you need within the next 2 to 3 months, it's not always pragmatic to go out to bid, which could take 6 or 7 months. So just adding to that.
Any other comments from members of the committee? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Next item, discussion action, contract award, Committee for Children, number 20841. Looking for a motion to move approval.
Move approval.
Made by Ms. Backus.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Testa. Any comments or questions?
I have a
Mr. Testa.
I have a question. I think it's for Mr. Heatherton, I think. So on the requisitions, this one has a second step grades K through 8, multi-site pricing, blah, blah, blah. And I'm going to go ahead to the next one. The next one is the same vendor, and it says grades K through 5. So,
Okay, so I can take number 18. So number 18 is for our second step digital curriculum. I budget for that. They did increase slightly. So the grant from Mrs. Murray's budget picked up the extra couple of thousand. And next year I'll just budget the whole amount. And then for 19.
So this is an additional bully prevention program through the same second step SEL curriculum. So in the curriculum for K through 5, bullying is a separate.
Point of order.
Ms.
Oh, I'm
Backus?
sorry.
One second, we got a point of order. Ms. Backus?
We haven't approved
Yep.
this
Oh, you
yet?
wanna
We
just
shouldn't be
vote?
Yeah.
discussing it?
Yep, correct.
All right,
Yep.
so we'll vote on 18.
We're on 18 this
Okay,
time.
we can vote on 18.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
So are you good?
I'm good.
Any other comments or questions from members of the committee? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. If there's no objections from members of the committee, I'd like to take items 19 and 20, given that they're both grant-funded expenditures. That would be discussion action contract award, Committee for Children, number 20805, and discussion action contract award, Boys and Girls Club of War, number 20815. Anyone opposed to taking 19 and 20?
Sort of, because one is a grant, and it's got to do with, it's an anti-bullying program.
Yes.
And the other is payment for staff
Yep.
through the 365 program.
But that's a 365 grant funds, correct?
Right.
Yep. So with them both being grant funded, I figured I'd just batch them together because none of them are coming out of the general funds.
Okay.
If you can say opposed to it, if you're opposed to taking them both.
No, I mean, as long as we can discuss them separately.
Yes, ma'am,
Okay.
absolutely. So looking for a motion to adopt that?
So moved.
Made by Mr. Testa. Yes.
Sorry, but just looking at the requisition, it does look like some of the funding is coming from the general
Coming from the general funds?
Yep.
All right, before we get too deep here then, we'll do number 19. I'm looking for a move approval, discussion action, contract award, Committee for Children, number 20805.
So moved.
Made by Ms. Backus, seconded by Mr. Testa. Open this up for discussion.
So this was the one you were
And
explaining.
Mr.
Okay,
Testa.
Here we go. Floor is yours.
So the second step program that we've purchased, Mrs. Kuzno was just referring to, does not have a bullying component. So we discussed last year that this would be an additional program that we'd like to put in the hands of our phys ed health teachers to enhance our curriculum in bully prevention. Mrs. Kuzno has been doing a lot of work with her principals around bully prevention and thought that this would be a great opportunity to purchase this through Project Aware grant funds, and it's a sole source provider.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any questions or comments?
Just
Ms. Backus.
a comment. This is so important because, as you know, we have so much bullying going on, and social media just thrives on bullying. So thank you, and I hope everybody approves this. It's vital for our kids.
I'm glad it's,
Ms. Hazel?
I'm just glad it's not something else that the general ed teacher has to put on her plate on
And that's-
top of the other things.
Yeah, that was part of the discussion. We started the conversation last year, but we wanted to make sure we had a very viable plan going forward.
I think it's a great plan.
Any other comments from members of the committee? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes. Item 19, 5-0. Item 20, discussion action, contract award, Boys and Girls Club of Warwick, number 20815. Looking for a motion to approve?
So moved.
Made by Ms. Backus.
Second?
Seconded by Ms. Hazelwood. Any comments or questions? Ms. Kirby Chapman?
You guys are doing great. Every program from Boys and Girls Club, they're just great. I don't know,
They really are.
like, they're just awesome.
Yeah, this program is for the summer program, and we were able to have 52 students in it, and 1,240 hours of additional instruction for those students over the summer.
That's
How many hours?
1,240 hours of additional instruction for those students total.
Great. No regression going on there.
Ms. Kirby Chapman, you still have the floor. You're all set. Ms. Hazelwood, you're good? Mr. Test.
Thank you. Mr. Heather, this is the Governor's Learn 365, right?
Yes. Correct.
So does this have an expiration?
This
The Learn
is, we
Learn
actually
365?
we were awarded a 2-year expanded grant, so this will go, it started this summer. It's going to do tutoring and also all the summer school vacations this year, and then summer next year, and then the school vacations again the following year.
Following year, okay. And then the General Assembly appropriates more money for it, so.
We'll get more.
Hopefully.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions from members of the committee? Seeing none, all those in favor of discussion action, item number 20, Boys and Girls Club of Warwick 20815, say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Item number 21, discussion action contract award, SHI International Code number 20890, as presented by Dr. Taylor. Looking for a motion to adopt.
So moved.
So moved.
Made by Mr. Testa, seconded by Ms. Backus. Any questions or comments from members of the committee? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item passes 5-0. Next we have, if nobody's opposed, if you saw the memos from Mr. Oliver, all pressing needs of the facilities. If nobody's opposed, items 22 to 29, two of them are change orders. Is anyone opposed to me taking all of those items as one packet? And certainly, when we go to a comment, if you want to take one out, or two, or however many, we could do so. Nobody opposed? Okay, so I'm looking for a motion to adopt agenda items 22 to 29, contract award, AD&D Welding and Boiler Works, Hussey Seating, Webco, so those are 20848, 20857, Single Source Disaster Recovery 20820, Single Source Disaster Recovery 20823, Driscoll Elevator and Sunbelt Rentals.
So moved.
Made by Mr. Testa, seconded by Ms. Backus. Any comments?
I do have some questions.
Mr. Testa.
Mr. Oliver, thank you. Hold on. None on that one. Let's see. None on that one. On the 20848 Web Company, the $8,212 for replacement motor on the pump.
Yep.
What was it a pump for?
Say that again, sir?
What kind of a pump is it?
It's for a boil, the boiler.
The boiler,
Yep.
okay. That answered that question. Then on Web 20857 for $6,541 to replace the Taco circulator pump at Robertson. Webb's proposal says it's not dimensionally interchangeable and will require piping changes to be installed. Is that an expense that comes later?
That will be something that my guy should be able to take care
So,
of.
okay, we
Yep.
can handle that.
Yep.
Okay. And a silly question, how old was this pump? Do you think?
It could have been original to the building.
Okay, that's beautiful. Okay. And then the last two, the single source disaster recoveries on the mold. Same question for both. Do we know what the root cause of the mold was, and did we remedy it? Or was this just something that?
It looked, from what I've been told, because I was off, and what I've been told is that the air conditioning was up and running, somebody shut it off, and when you do that in a very humid condition, the room will condense and build up moisture, and that's what they're gathering caused the problem.
All right, so we shouldn't have it in the future, right?
Correct.
For 2 more years anyway, before we tear the things down?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Backus.
I just wanted to know where the chairlift is going.
Say that again?
You put in for a change order for a chairlift? Driscoll
chair-
Elevator, PO 2500.
So this is part of our annual elevator and chairlift inspection.
Yeah.
So what's happened as we've redone elementary schools that have stages, they've installed chairlifts, and they weren't accounted for on the original bid for the inspections. So
And
we
I'm
had-
just asking where that chairlift is going.
No, it's not for a chairlift, it's for the inspection of a chairlift.
Oh, for the inspection of the
Inspections,
chairlift. Okay.
correct. Yep.
Very good. Thank you.
All set, Ms. Backus?
All set, thank you.
Fantastic. Any other questions or comments from members of the committee? Seeing none. All those in favor of passing items number 22 through 29 as presented by Mr. Oliver, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Seeing none.
Thank you.
5-0. Did you get that, Ms. Tedeschi? 22 to 29. Next item, item 30, discussion action, approval of one school social worker
approval.
made by, as presented by Mr. Ollenbach, motion made by Ms. Backus.
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Hazelwood and Mr. Testa. Any comments or questions?
I have a question. early in the year, we took a social worker, I don't know who can answer this, Dave, if you can. We took a social worker out of Welk half-time, and she was supposed to be over at Wyman. What's the situation with that?
So she's at Wyman, but she's only at Wyman for 1.5 days, and the rest of the day she's at Welk, which leaves Wyman without a clinician for 2 half-days and 1 full day.
Okay, so will we be keeping her at both schools, or will we give her back to Welk?
We haven't finalized the schedule yet. I would assume she would go back to Welk full-time, and the new social worker would be at Wyman.
That would
Instead
be
of
a-
having 2 part-time. if
That
it
would
makes
probably
sense.
be a good move, because I know they have needs over at Welk as well.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you. Do you yield, Ms. Hazelwood?
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Backus?
And this is the social worker position I was talking about earlier. Need to stay on top of my notes. But at this point, we're 1 to 427 students in Warwick, when the National Social Work Association says it's 1 to 250. This will bring it down very, very little, which is why I was saying earlier that we really need to look at, and I know they're hard to find, but we really need to look at increasing social workers, because we have a crisis out there with a lot of our kids, and they really need those services. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Backus. Any other comments on this? I would just echo their sentiments rather than add more on, so appreciate this coming before us. All those in favor of passing item number 30, discussion action, approval of 1 social worker?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Item 31, discussion action, approval teacher assistance request, as presented by Mr. Allenbach. Looking for a motion to move approval.
Move approval.
Made by Ms. Backus.
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Hazelwood and Mr. Testa. Any comments or questions?
No, I
Mr.
don't-
Testa.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't have a question for Mr. Allenbach. I think I have something for Mr. Bowl. If you could, at some point, provide with the committee, it kind of goes, it's tied into your part of the meeting. It's also tied into this. So can you just get for us, we built a budget in the spring, right? So I'm just trying to figure out what's the fiscal impact of these additional positions that we've added during the course of the year, right? If you can just provide, you can send an email to the committee for that. I'm just curious, because your staff to student need. So I think people need to understand that this isn't, this isn't discretionary.
Yep. You're referring to the positions that have been added in fiscal year 25 so far.
Right. Anything on top of the original budget that we had.
Yep.
Because I think it's going to be a pretty significant number.
Yep.
So, thank you.
I would just add something.
Thank you, Mr. Testa. Ms. Hazelwood.
Okay, the 3 that are just requested. One is for Pilgrim High School. It is in the child's IEP. The other one is for the transition program, also in the child's IEP. The last one, we are taking administrators out of their duties, and they are covering classrooms because of behaviors. That, to me, is a need for another teacher assistant. We're not just hiring people into these classrooms. These are necessary people that we need to take care of the needs and the teaching within those classrooms. So I'll stand by those decisions every day, all day long.
Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hazelwood. Any other comments or questions from members of the committee? Seeing none, all those in favor of agenda item 31 say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Next item, discussion action, contract award, hand to mind, Dr. Schultz. Looking for a motion to move approval on this?
Move approval.
Made by Ms. Backus.
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Hazelwood and Mr. Testa. Any questions or comments for Dr. Schultz?
These are,
Ms. Backus.
I'm sorry. These are class kits, correct?
Yes.
So
It makes, is this on? Testing, testing, hi. Yes, they're kits, they're manipulative kits, and so the students can, the math comes to life. It goes right with our iReady program
Awesome.
for them. Yeah, it makes it fun and engaging for them.
I figured so much.
Any other comments or questions for Dr. Schultz? Seeing none, all those in favor of agenda item number 32 say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, motion passes 5-0.
Thank you.
If my colleagues have no objection, I am looking to take item 33 as one, curriculum approvals.
Move approval.
Made by Ms. Backus.
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Hazelwood and Mr. Testa. So we would now be voting on general music course grades 4 and 5, general music grade 5, general music grade 1, general music grade 4, general music kindergarten, general music grade 2, general music grade 3. We didn't want to put these in order? Mathematics grade 6, mathematics grade 7, and mathematics grade 8. Any questions or comments for Dr. Schultz on that, Ms. Backus?
As I said earlier, I loved these curriculum. They are fantastic. I love the way they're written, the way they're broken down, the way they align with the vision of a graduate and with NCAS and everything else. And even the resources and materials suggestions at the end. I had a great time reading this. It's
Oh, thank you.
fantastic. Thank you very much.
Sure. We have great teams that worked on them for years. So
Great job.
yes, kudos to them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Backus. Any other questions or comments from members of the committee? Seeing none, looking for a motion to, looking for approval for agenda item number 33. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Seeing none, motion passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Schultz. We're now on to the public comment portion of our meeting. Individual comments will be respectfully limited to 3 minutes per person, with public comment not to exceed 45 minutes. Though the content of comments will not be restricted, it is the hope of this committee that citizens, committee members, and the administration alike will be respectful of each other's right to speak, tolerant of different points of view, and mindful of everyone's time. This public comment period is for general comments or concerns. Speakers are asked to state their name for the record. Again, it's 3 minutes per person, and it's an opportunity for the public to comment and us to listen. Thank you.
Hello, Jeremy Langell, Ward 5. I have 2 daughters at Warwick Neck Elementary. I just wanted to comment on the ACA policy. I had to track down the agendas from the previous meetings because I was seeking clarity. So it looks like ACA was on for August 6th, the 13th, and the 1st. And so my assumption is that at those meetings, it must have been held at those meetings, and then it somehow got to, you don't have to, I know you can't answer. I'm just trying to work this out in my head. So it was on the agenda for those meetings, but not, it was either held or not approved. So anyways, which is different from what was also held on the 29th meeting, which is JBB. So there's 2 different policies, right? ACA refers, I think, to how you handle a grievance, right? And JBB is the policy that refers to the one that was passed in 2018 that refers to protecting Title IX and all that, or not Title IX, protecting transgender students. So I understand it sounds like there's some procedural issues there, so I'm hoping that those will be worked out quickly. I wanted to just note that there's been a lot of conversation in different places about certain activities around Title IX and transgender folks. The ACLU of Rhode Island has said that those injunctions in Kansas and other places have functionally no meaning or power here in Rhode Island, so we can continue to include and protect our transgender students regardless of what's happening in some of these other places. And I know some of these other places, other states have attempted to use religious exemptions to discriminate and exclude transgender students. You all know I'm a minister, a pastor, a theologian, a scholar of religion. It's entirely inappropriate to use God or religion to discriminate or exclude our transgender students. So I sure hope we're not using that as a rationale or a reason as to why we would slow walk or delay these things. From my view, regardless of what happens to Title IX at the federal level, we need to continue to protect our transgender students. We need to continue to have appropriate policies so that if there is a grievance, it can be handled, right? We don't need to go down the road of discrimination and fear-based thinking. We already have
30 seconds.
Thank you. We already have good policies in place, policies that are built on expertise of medical doctors and psychiatrists, not activists who've come in from Westerly. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, it's Darlene Netco. I'd like to speak on behalf of our elementary teachers. I don't think they were given enough credit during the earlier portion when we were talking about test scores. Our elementary teachers have an almost impossible task with all of the mandates and all of the programs that have been thrust upon them over the past few years. As far as the latest round of quote-unquote green curricula, that's about a little over 4 years old right now. Right before the pandemic, our previous curriculum director and a number of teachers in this district were working on a grant to get from RIDE to get new curricula. And many of these teachers actually did a lot of the hard work for that. And I won't name them all by name, but I could. And so that wit and wisdom grew out of that. I currently have this HMH thing at the high school. I'd rather have my 30-year-old Elements of Literature series. It's a lot better than what I've got right now, but I digress. I wish I had an hour or two to talk about everything that's wrong with state testing. Mr. Testa mentioned the SATs, totally inappropriate to use as a state test, but at the elementary level, when we've got our elementary teachers who have to do, as was pointed out, teach all 4 main subject areas. Although Warwick used to have dedicated itinerant science teachers, we were ahead of the curve. We had something great in this district, and a previous superintendent got rid of it. They have GEMSNet, they have iReady, they have Wit and Wisdom, Panorama, this now second step, and plus Right to Read. And Right to Read was a state law here in Rhode Island. The legislature said that some teachers have to be proficient. That would be your K through 5 and K through 12 special ed, and others just have to be aware. That would be everybody else. And then left it up to RIDE to decide what was aware or what was proficient. And RIDE decided to totally burden mercilessly our elementary teachers and our K through 12 special ed with this proficient. I did the aware, which was Bridge RI, and in my opinion, the first module of that made me aware enough. The whole 5 modules could have made people proficient.
30 seconds.
And that would have been enough. But to Mrs. Cousineau's point earlier, our teachers at the elementary level had to go through letters. That was K through 3. And now 4 and 5 are doing Reading Reimagined. And it's too much. Our previous ELA director, loved her, Kathy DeRocha, the best ever, used to say, you're sticking 10 pounds of potatoes in a 5-pound bag. It's got to stop. People can only do so much. And the fact that our scores have moved at all and are where they are is a testament to the dedication of our elementary teachers. And you can praise the principals or whatever if you want. I have some stories about some of them, but it's our elementary teachers in the classroom that are doing the hard job, and they aren't getting enough credit, and enough is enough. Too much is too much at this point.
Thank you.
Good evening. Zachary Cologne, taxpayer here in Warwick, homeowner, former student in Tollgate High School, graduate of class of 2017. I was a candidate for school committee in 2024 this year, and I just want to first thank Ms. Backus for her 12 years of service on our school committee. When I was a student at Tollgate High School, she was often the lone vote standing up for our students. So I just want to take a moment to thank you personally. I consider Karen a friend and very appreciative of the work she's done over the past decade plus in Warwick Public Schools. Also, of course, want to congratulate Mr. Testa and Mr. Wiggins on their win in 2024. And also would just like to say that your success is our success, so I'm rooting for you, as well as the 3 of you that are up for re-election in 2026. I'm rooting for all of you because the only way we succeed is when we work together. The other thing I'd like to say is in regards to the Title IX policy that was briefly discussed today, I actually learned from the Warwick Public Schools Facebook page. I'm not sure who runs it, but appreciative of them putting out that today is World Kindness Day. I'd just like to ask for kindness to our students. I went to school with at least 3 transgender students at Tollgate. Some of the nicest people I knew. Let's just be kind. Just remember that transgender students are still students. Transgender people are still people. They have hearts, they have feelings, just like the rest of us here. So please, let's just consider them as people when we make decisions for how they have to go about their day in our public schools. That's all I have to say, and thank you again.
Thank you.
Jacob Medor, Warwick resident, Warwick graduate, and I currently teach at Tollgate. I wanted to take a moment and talk about the new high schools, both at Tollgate and at Pilgrim. I will preface these comments by the fact that I voted for the high schools. I helped distribute leaflets for the high schools. I held a sign on election day. But I have some comments that I wanted to share, mainly on the lack of classroom space. I understand the schedules. I wasn't privy to that. I trust the people involved in that. But as a teacher's point of view, we had a meeting, I forget what month it was, but it was this school year, so it was fairly recently, when after all the blueprints were finalized, which haven't been changed since. And it was a good half hour, and they gave us a rendering. They showed us the athletic fields. I support all the students. I go to all the games. Great. But they never mentioned in the half-hour presentation about the classrooms and the fact that teachers who would be teaching, in many cases, 25, 30 years, with a whole life of materials, muscle-rich resources on their own dime, would now be traveling. And I know this because, one, I was there, and two, I then talked to many colleagues, and they were very surprised when I said, oh, we'll all be traveling. And they said, how do you know that? And I said, well, if you count the classrooms and then you count the teachers, the math goes. And then I asked a few people, and they were very transparent with the information, so kudos on that end. But there was a lack of transparency, and we need buy-in. It can't buy-in from the teachers when we have a major change like that. So I just hope in the future, everyone is forthcoming with all information, and people don't have to read it between the lines, because a lot of teachers, like I did, supported these schools. We held signs, we distributed leaflets, and to not be told in an official manner and have to read between the lines, A, or B, when the new high schools get built and then here's your new shiny building, oh, by the way, you're on the cart, might not be the best way to go about things. I also, just on another side note, I understand the financial aspect, believe me, I get it, but it does seem to go against the 21st century learning and the vision of the graduate that encourages hands-on learning and more activity-based and project-based learning and going away from shock and talk. And when you have those materials,
30 seconds.
You're going to have to bring them from point A to point B, and it's not as simple as a college professor just bringing his briefcase. So I just wanted to throw that out there. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other members of the public wishing to comment? Any other members of the public wishing to comment? Any other members of the public wishing to comment? Seeing none? Future meetings. Health and Wellness Subcommittee meeting is meeting Tuesday, November 26, 2024 at 3 p.m. The next fiscal subcommittee meeting is being held Monday, December 2nd, 2024 at 3 p.m. The next policy subcommittee meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, December 3rd, 2024 at 4:30 p.m. The next Warwick School Building Committee meeting, Wednesday, December 4th, 2024 at 7:30 a.m. The next monthly school committee meeting scheduled for Tuesday, December 10th, 2024 at 7 p.m. And the Warwick Special Education Advisory Committee is scheduled for Wednesday, December 11th, 2024 at 6 p.m. Given that this is the last meeting before the Thanksgiving holiday, on behalf of the entire committee, I wish all of you and everyone that is watching at home, all of our teachers and our students and their families, a happy Thanksgiving and a healthy Thanksgiving. So with that, I'd be looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Made by Ms. Backus.
Second.
Seconded by Miss Hazelwood and Mr. Testa. All those in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? No. There we go. We're adjourned.